Good morning and welcome to A Fine Time for Healing. I'm your show host, Randi Fine. A Fine Time for Healing is a place where your physical, emotional, and spiritual well-being are all that matter. So put your feet up, relax, and enjoy today's wonderful show. What if the key to having the life you want is as easy as understanding how perception works? And what if there was a simple way to recognize your natural strengths? What if there was an easy hack to create the relationships you want with the people who matter most to you? Would you be interested? If so, you want to listen to this show. Today we have with us Linda Ross Vega, who has been fascinated with what makes people tick since she was a child. Her curiosity about human diversity and ways to bring out the best in people led her to a multifaceted career in banking, technology, and behavioral consulting. She held roles including C-suite executive interpreter, business owner, consultant, coach, daughter, sister, wife, stepmom, and grandmother. And she's had 35 years of experience in senior management as a business owner, entrepreneur. We also have with us Gary Jordan, PhD, who has over 40 years of experience in clinical psychology, behavioral assessment, individual development, and coaching. He earned his doctorate in clinical psychology from the California School of Professional Psychology, Berkeley, in 1980. Always fascinated by theories about types and styles, Gary found none of the theories he studied integrated internal experience with observable behavior. So today we're going to be talking about the book that they co-wrote, Unlock the Power of Your Perception. So welcome, Linda Ross, Gary. So great to have you.
Thank you for having us. This is great to be here.
Yeah, this is such a good topic. So as I was reading through the book, I realized that there's so much I don't know about this topic. What I do know, is that perception is everything. And I also know that no two people perceive things the same way. And I've even read that we perceive colors differently. So this is so important because if we understand that we are perceiving things differently from others, it lessens our expectations in our relationships.
Without a doubt.
We assume the other person views things and feels the same way about things that we do. But that is not the case, is it?
Nope. It's true that the way we perceive, the way we see the world around us really informs how we take action, right? And we actually, as you said, people perceive differently. And there's no one right way. There are several ways. And then your life experience plays a place too. So we're all unique in the way we see things. But understanding that perceptual difference can really mitigate disconnects. It makes it far more interesting. It's like every TV show you've ever seen, the crime dramas where there's four witnesses and they all see something different, right? It's all about their perception. What's important to one person isn't important to the other person. And that's why they all have varying degrees of recall on exactly what happened. So, and of course, it makes for a good TV drama. But.
Yeah, it does. Okay, so when this happens, we think that people who disagree with us must be uninformed, irrational, or biased. And we see this a lot, especially now in politics. We're so very divided, and one side cannot see the other side of point of view at all. And right. It's so bizarre to me that this has happened. But let's start off with talking about the concept of objective reality. And you guys can take it as you want. I'm not going to ask specifically because I don't know who wrote what. But Gary, you want to take that?
Sure, you bet. This is something that's fascinated me all my life. And you mentioned the thing about seeing colors differently. I think that perhaps was one of the earliest things that I remember in high school physics thinking, do I see red the way the other people see red? And that brings up the question of, as you said, is there an objective reality? And, I have a side hobby of reading physics. And, I think that the consensus is right now is we don't know. There's a school that says, yes, there is an objective reality. And then there's a school from the quantum physics big time that says that everything is based on our perception. We create reality as we perceive it. So that's getting fairly deep. I think for where we come into it is that we say though there may be an objective reality, we don't weigh in on that, but that none of us individually has access to that objective reality fully. We have access to a portion of what is objective reality, and then we want to talk about some common ways that you can group that perception together and make a better sense of the world for you and the world of the people that you interact with.
And when you say that, are you referring to the perceptual style theory?
Yes, I am.
Okay, all right,
Yeah.
Great. So that's where I am in the book.
You got it.
So let's talk about what that is and what the 7 distinguishing principles are.
Okay. Do you want to take that, Linda Ross?
Sure. So the theory, it basically is a behavioral theory. So we're saying that based on how you see the world is how you make meaning for yourself. And so we see perception, and this is what the theory describes, as sort of a 3-step process that happens in a blink of an eye. So first, you take in information, just data from your 5 senses, taste, touch, smell, hearing, and sight. Now, research will say that about 75%, assuming you have access to all 5 senses, 75% of your data input is from sight, 20% from hearing, and taste, touch, and smell rounded out with the last 5%. But basically, your senses are taking information into your brain as raw data. And what happens then is that your brain applies your perceptual filter, so your perceptual style, to make meaning of that raw data. What's important, what's not important, what to take action on, what not to take action on. But then there's a 3rd step, and that is your brain also takes into account life experience. Like, was this true before? Did this work for me? Did I like it? Was it okay? So it's a sort of a 3-step thing that happens just like that. And what we describe in perceptual style theory is how those activities happen. So, Gary, you want to do the 6th or the base, the
7
tenets?
distinguishing principles. That's how it's written.
Yeah, distinguishing principles.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the first one is that perception is the process that allows us to assign meaning to the world around us, and that's exactly what Linda Ross just described. We have sensations from our senses, but they don't mean anything to us until our brain does something with it, and that process that the brain does is perception. Wow. And so that when the brain does its work on sensation, then we have meaning. This means this to me, or this is what I see. And what we're saying, well, let's actually go to the next one. People perceive the world differently and consequently derive different meaning from the same event. What we're saying there is that when I view an environment or a situation or an interaction with someone, and if you're standing next to me, you're going to have a different perception of what actually is taking place because you're listening for, looking for, and responding to different cues based on what you find is important based on your perceptual style. So, a quick brief example, we're using a perceptual style that won't make a lot of sense right now because we haven't described them. But, one perceptual style is looking for what's going on politically in this room right now. While another perceptual style is saying, what are the facts of this information? What's the data here? And that's a very different way to approach a social interaction. Neither of them is wrong. Neither of them is correct. Well, let's say they're both correct. They're both but they're not the entire picture. We think that perceptual styles, principle number 3 is that perceptual styles can be grouped. And we have grouped them into 6 different perceptual styles. That's based on our experience. We came up with it theoretically, and then we went and refined and honed it through our research. Obviously, with 6 perceptual styles, we're talking at a very high level of meaning. We're not talking about the specific meaning you make out of a situation although that specific meaning will relate back to that higher level of meaning, which is the perceptual style. We believe that perceptual style is innate and it does not change over time. And so what we mean by that is it's inborn. You are born with your perceptual style. It's a matter of discovering your perceptual style, not creating it, and then refining and learning and more about it as you grow older. Now, as people become more, I was say early on, people will think, well, I'm a little bit of this, I'm a little bit of that. And what we have found is that's overlay, that's learning, that's socialization, that's developmental. You have learned to do things that don't fit your perceptual style. And that's one of the key things that we want to do, is we say there's our natural skills, this is number 5, that align with your perceptual style. And because of your perceptual style, you have a natural inborn ability or potential to develop that skill. Now, there's also those, we'll call those natural skills. There's also acquired skills, which are those that you must learn to do to function in the world, but they're not really supported by your perceptual style. We believe that there's a developmental aspect, that's number 6, and it's a preference that we get for how we want to interact with the world. There's 3 of them. We call them the preferences for interaction, and they flavor the perceptual style. So there is an innate part, perceptual style, and a developmental part, which is the preferences for interaction. And finally, people develop and recognize skills that are a direct reflection of the interaction between their perceptual style and their preferences for interaction. So that if I am one perceptual style and you have the same perceptual style, we may feel very differently when we interact because our preference for interaction are supporting different skills and different ways of interacting with other people. Those are the 7 principles.
Wow. What are the 6 perceptual styles?
So we'll name them in alphabetical order. So there's activity. These people are the ones who make meaning through experience. So they jump into life with both feet. There's adjustments. These folks make meaning through the gathering of information, applying knowledge. They see a lot of complexity and ripple effects. There's flow. These folks make meaning through the connectivity of everything. They believe everything is connected to everything else and supports everything else. And they tend to be very people aware, people oriented, making meaning around community. Goals. These are the folks that make meaning based. They see the world as obstacles and problems to be solved, things to be done, accomplishments to be made, right? Methods. These folks make meaning through fact. They research the facts to make their decisions. They see things as fact, sort of the just the facts, ma'am type of approach, but obviously more well-rounded than that. Right. And then vision. And the vision people make meaning of the world based on opportunity and possibility. They're probably the poster children for optimism. So there's the 6 styles. There's a theoretical construct where every style has 2 next door neighbors and 1 opposite and 2 one-offs. And so there's interesting dynamics that happen between the perceptual styles based on how those perceptions differ and what you will see differently and experience differently at in certain situations. So it's pretty fun.
So are you saying there's a crossover, that each of us has a crossover, or we really are one or the other?
You're really one or the other.
Okay.
But if you picture the styles in a wheel, and everybody's a slice of the full pie, okay, then you're going to have a style on either side of you, and you may share some high level similarities. For example, vision and goals are next to each other, and they both share a sort of a future orientation. One is short-term future, and the other one is sort of a longer-term, vaguer future, but they're both see possibility and moving forward. So you'll share some commonalities at a very high level, but then when you get down to how you do something, it'll be very different stylistically.
Okay. I'm really surprised to hear that this is innate. and that, it's the other influences are not perception. Um, so let's see. Okay.
I
Yeah,
think,
as you were talking about that, I was thinking, there's a couple of different ones that I can fall into. I'm not really sure. I guess I'd really have to sit and think about it.
yeah.
You were going
Yeah,
to say something?
that's
I was
yeah,
going to
that,
say, go ahead. I was going to say that the concept of this being innate is the one that we get challenged on the most, and it's the one that we hold the line on the hardest, because one of the things that we're really trying to talk about is the concept of the theory of limitations, which is that not everybody can do everything, and we think that the concept oftentimes with self-help and stylistic theories and things, people will talk about, well, if you develop, let's go develop your weaknesses. And we think that is what one of the issues is, and it gets in people's way of really realizing what their skills and their abilities really are, is that they start focusing on all the things they don't think they do very well, rather than focusing on discovering the things they do well and excelling at that, and, if you will, hiring out the other stuff.
I completely agree with you on that. And I've thought about that because I do narcissistic abuse coaching. And so I work with people, and often their entire realities have been skewed. But one
sure.
of the things that is very important with these people is discovering who they are and accepting who they are, because they've been told that everything about them is wrong.
Right. It's
So,
extremely important.
right, it's very important. And so when we get to that point and I ask people who they are and what their likes and dislikes are, it's um, I'm usually met with, oh, I can be who I am. I
Yes.
don't have to be that or this. I can just be who
Yes.
I am.
Yes.
And the first time I heard that, it really struck me as just it surprised me that somebody would say, "Can I really be who I am?" But I think that's kind of what you're talking about. We are who
It
we
Exactly.
is very
are, and
much.
we need
Yeah.
to embrace that.
Embrace it. We call it learning to stand in your strengths, because if you build your foundation around what you do naturally well, then you can meet life's challenges. You know when you have to stretch yourself or when you're not stretching, but you always have a home base to come back to, because this is who you are. And when we have people take the assessment, we get a sort of a similar thing where they'll come back and say, I feel so validated. Did you talk to my mom or something? And but it's recognizing that because of how you see the world, you're amazingly good at these things. And honestly, it would take you a lifetime and probably more to develop all of the potential that you have. And that's the other thing that people are surprised by, because your perceptual style and you have all this potential, and you tend to have developed strengths in things that your life so far has called for. So you don't even know that potential is sitting there, and you could go like, oh, I could do that too. Oh, well, that's kind of fun.
Mhm.
And so it's nothing is the world is full of challenges and ups and downs, but we believe that happiness isn't this thing you acquire and hold on to for life. It's the little things every day that you enjoy because of who you are, right? And it's finding those small moments of joy and finding that strength that
Mhm.
we really like to help people with, because the world is full of people that are going to tell you what you do wrong.
Yep.
And that's their opinion, by the way. And so let's talk about what you do right.
Right. I think it's human nature to measure ourselves against others.
It
Yes.
is. Yeah.
Yes. What is
And
it that the line, the narcissism of the slight difference?
I haven't heard that.
It's a coined phrase that it's basically like worrying that slight difference that makes that person less than you, or you know and
Wow.
so it's differences scare us, because our brains were a bazillion years ago when we first showed up on the earth. Paying attention to negative things was it guaranteed your life. If you didn't pay attention, you were going to get eaten or your house was going or whatever. The point is negative. We had to respond to it because that is what kept us alive. And as our brains have evolved, we still see negative things first, but it's being able to put that in perspective. And it's learning that we got 7 compliments and 1 criticism, and then all you remember is the criticism. So let's talk about why that happens, and let's go back to those 7 compliments and buffer that criticism with that. Does it really matter?
Mhm.
So
I agree. Obviously, social media has a lot to do with this.
oh yes,
Mm-hmm.
so much comparison, so much unnecessary and unhelpful comparison.
Right. And so there's a whole generation of people that are growing up under that influence, and
Yes.
it's very confusing.
It
Very
is.
confusing. Yeah. One of the things that I'd say, talk about, Randy, if I can jump in here, is that
Oh, sure.
when you've got 6 perceptual styles, that means that approximately 84% of the rest of the world doesn't see the world the way that you do.
Okay.
There's only 16% that sees the way the world that you do, and so that you're running around experiencing all these differences, and the natural tendency, as we've just been talking about, is to say, well, there must be something wrong with me. I'm out of step. And so one of the reasons that we do focus so much on the positive side is to again to repeat Linda Ross's statement, is we wanted people to start to feel good about who they were. One of the wonderful things that we experience is when we train this and people read it, is they go, exactly as Linda Ross said, wow, I get to be this. This is me. I really am this. It's okay to be this. And the exciting part is that not only do they begin to feel good about them, but it allows them the freedom to let other people be themselves.
Mm.
And that's a key part of what we're trying to get to, is to increase communication and decrease conflict through an appreciation and a valuing of the differences rather than a competition between them.
It is definitely a much healthier way to live life in
Yes.
every aspect and in all our relationships. So you talk about the concept of innate bias, and you say this comes from philosophy and psychology. So did we cover innate bias? I mean, you didn't label it that way, but have we talked about that?
Yes, in the sense that we think your perceptual style is a representation of your innate bias. It's like what our brains, the filter we were born with. Because if we think about it, if all you were doing is taking in data every second from all of your senses, we'd be in constant states of overwhelm, right? There's how would we make sense of all of that stuff? And so, an innate bias is literally a gift. It's your perceptual filter that says, let me sort this through to make meaning of it. What's nice about understanding that is there is that there is literally nothing wrong with it. If I could go on a campaign for there's one bias that's good, it would be the concept of a perceptual filter, because it helps you sort through. But what we're saying is that since no one filter is the best, it is everybody does it. We all do it. Okay, we're not seeing the same thing. Let's talk about it. Okay, it gives you a place to start, as opposed to assuming that because the other person didn't see things the way you did, that they're purposely pressing your buttons or trying to be a twit or whatever. So, but that's the concept. And innate bias is different than like cognitive bias, which is sort of an error in thinking, or unconscious bias, which are falsehoods that we believe to be true just because that's what was presented to us when we were small, or that's how, we don't realize that we're applying a bias to it, an unhealthy bias to it. So the difference is you can't change your perceptual filter, but unhealthy biases you can learn to recognize and change.
Thank you for explaining that. So in the book, you say that perception is fascinating as it both grows and solidifies over time. What do you mean by that?
Well, your perception, I'm stumbling here. Linda Ross, can you grab that?
Yeah. So
I stumped you with
Sorry.
this happens to both of us when we start doing rabbit trails in our own heads as we're talking about this stuff. So basically what happens is that the more you're aware of how you see the world, the more you lean into it. Okay, so you can lean into it. And so there's two ways of approaching it. One is that you lean into it so much that you basically decide the rest of the world is wrong, which is not where we want you to go. Or you lean into it because you're aware instantly of how you came to the conclusion you did, and it opens questions for you about whether you want to know something else. But it's being able to rely on your perception like muscle memory, as opposed to looking over your shoulder and questioning yourself. So it grows. The more you're aware of it, the more depth you get to it, the more you see how it impacts every piece of your life. The more you can draw on it for the strength that you need during times of crisis. And the more open you are to saying, this is how I feel. Do you have a different point of view? Let me consider, right? And so that's the kind of growth we hope happens for folks.
Okay. Yeah, I get that. That's and I can understand that. Yeah, once we grab onto it, we can solidify it. So I wanted to go through the the 6 perceptual styles because I want to elaborate a little more so that listeners can sort of hone in on what they think they may be. So one is the experience, the content of participation. These are the fundamental aspects of being human that are key to perception, experience. Oh, this is different. Okay.
So what you're looking at there is, so when we were trying to group things to look for if there were commonalities of groups about what do we share just from being human.
Okay.
That's how we came up with those fundamental aspects. And then what we did is say, but people, what that filter does for you is it puts a different stress, a different combination of those things is how your perception works. We all do them, but we do them in different order with different emphasis. And that's how we came up with the 6 styles. We didn't say, ooh, 6 would be a good number. We sort of evolved into 6.
And so it's experience, knowledge, community, possibility, accomplishment, and roles. And
right.
You say each of us has all 6 of these fundamental drivers, but their strength varies from person to person, and the order of their strength determines an individual's perceptual style.
Right. So that had a lot to do with how we built the assessments, because there's assessments to determine your perceptual style. There's actually a free one if people want to try that and get a taste for it. But yeah, so that's the basis of it. And then each style approaches life slightly differently. So
okay. So I do want to go back a little bit to the beginning because I was really interested as we went over the innate perceptual styles. And I just wanted to sort of go a little slower with that because I want people to be able, as I said, kind of grab onto where they think they are. Because I know I was on the fence with a couple of them. So what is the first innate perceptual style?
The first, when we present them alphabetically, the first one is activity.
Okay.
And to repeat what's been said, the activity people, they perceive the world as a dynamic, interactive, exciting experience. It's enriched and full of new adventures that they're constantly wanting to get involved in. And they're big storytellers. They create networks of people as opposed to communities of people. By networks, they like to be in the center. They like to be in the spotlight. They like to be the person who connects different people to other people. You come and you say, I'm looking for an insurance man. I go, I got a guy for you. Let me give you his number. Let me make the introduction to each other. They are, they are natural in one aspect of their personalities, they're natural salesmen. They're very good at understanding and really getting to know you at a level that um, uh, they remember who you are, they remember your family, they remember all sorts of little details about you. These are the kind of people that you sit down next to on the airplane and they talk your ear off all the way from San Francisco to New York City, and um, they love to tell stories. And the reason they tell stories is that they're finding their life or whatever they're telling you about very exciting, and they want you to experience it in exactly the same way that they have. Now, obviously, that can't be done, but they never stop trying to do that. So they're very involved in life. They love new, innovative, novel things. Um, Linda Ross, you want to add any more to that?
I was just say they're the bunnies of
Energizer
our
bunnies.
styles. We also will kid around with activity folks because when they're interested in something they dive in, but they can be easily distracted. So there are next shiny object folks. It's like, oh, squirrel.
Okay.
And so fun, but lots of energy, lots of action, lots of involvement in life.
Okay.
They know a little bit about a lot of stuff.
Right.
That's really cool. And I've definitely met people like that, and I think, oh, wow, I wish I could be like that, but I'm so not.
I
Okay, so
understand.
second one is adjustments.
Adjustments. Okay. And so adjustments folks see the world as very intricate and complex, where everything is related to everything else: people, environment, situations, organizations. So, of all the styles, they see the most complexity and ripple effects. They are naturally drawn towards making processes that create efficient, reliable results. They are observers of life, because how they see all of that nuance and complexity is by observing first. And so they often are mistaken for being quiet. But usually, what they've learned over the course of their life is that they have so much information that the average person cannot absorb, that other 84% of the world that's not adjustments, right? So they tend to look for cues to be invited into conversation, and then you're amazed at the wealth of knowledge that happens. They are calm, natural diplomats. They understand protocol. So they, will easily honor protocol in an organization. They sense it, right? And people often go to them to help with mediation and negotiation because they're seen as fair, calm, and they have a motto that every adjustments person I've ever worked with has laughed and said, "Oh yeah, how did you know?" And it's basically, there wouldn't be a problem if you had all of the information to make the right decision. So you need that. So they're very information oriented, a wealth of knowledge, keen observers, and they try and approach things rationally and logically.
Okay, all right. So then the next one is goals.
Flow.
Is that the next one? What's the next one?
Flow
Oh,
is the
flow,
next one,
flow.
yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
I skipped a bit. Flow.
So flow people, we talk about them as being people, and that is hugely true for them, but it's really reflective of the way that they see how how the systems in the world, human systems, interact with each other. We chose the word flow just as people use it. Go with the flow. They feel the flow of life. They feel that, and they try to remain in tune with what they feel is the natural flow of the way the world is working. Um, um, One of the things you hear a lot from flow people is, what don't people get about the way this is supposed to flow? Because they see people fighting the flow all the time, and that really is deeply disturbing to them. They are builders of community and maintainers of community, human community. There's very much a belonging that we want people that have like-minded values and believe the way we believe. So they are the keepers of tradition, culture. Um, they are the ones that hold organizations together, but they are so subtle in the way that they do this. They're so gifted and skilled at their ability to hold people together is that oftentimes at least here in the United States, what flow people do in organizations is missed. People don't see it because they're so busy thinking about profits and sales and getting there. They fail to see that the organization has to work, has to have a culture that works together. They don't like the spotlight. They are a next door neighborhood activity, but unlike activity, they do not like the spotlight. And they are, as I said, community people, so that it's we are all members together here, not I'm in the middle. We're all members, we're all equal. They're constantly looking for and supporting what other people have and bring to the situation. They're considerate of other people's gifts and do an awful lot of promotion of other people's talents and skills in a situation. Make sure that people are in the right place doing the right thing.
They're naturally empathetic as well. And so they're often sought out by others because they're such great empathetic listeners. They'll always make time to listen to someone else that's in trouble, often to their own detriment. I mean, actually learning how to set self boundaries is a challenge for flow people, and that because they give a lot.
Okay. I see myself in a lot of that, and I definitely am of the philosophy that we have to follow the flow of life. That, when we begin to try to control things,
oh yeah,
that's when we just jam everything up. Okay.
I agree.
Right. Okay. So then the next one is goals, right?
Goals. So our goals folks see the world as obstacles and challenges that are there to be met. And they're very decisive. They are very forward oriented, like moving forward, not going back, making positive change. They like change. They're incredible at realigning things when chaos hits. Great crisis managers. Part of it being because they're so decisive. They'll, based on what they know right now, they'll make a decision that will allow things to move forward. They enjoy competition. They don't see competition as a bad thing. Participation trophies drive them crazy. Because they see the world as winners and losers, not in a harsh sense, but like if you make the effort, you can accomplish. If you sit back, you won't. It's that type of thing. Have high endurance, usually will push themselves way beyond what other people can push. Very focused on they don't start something they can't finish. And so there are poster children for getting things done, creating stability in chaos, problem solvers. Just they love problem solving, and they are really great at what I would call triage. Not, if you applied it to the broader sense than just medical triage, but it's like, we got a problem here, the situation's here, our answers, let's move. So they're great, very decisive. Lots of leadership. Many leadership training courses are written from the voice of goals about how to get things done.
Okay, I can see that. Okay, the next one is methods.
Methods are your practical and matter-of-fact folk. They see the world as a rational place that if you know and understand the situation, the facts and the data, that you can make logical, rational decisions about what's going on. It's not that they don't have emotions, but their response, they very much so, everybody has emotions, but the response is, what has that got to do with the situation, and how does that help us at this point in time?
Very black
so
and white.
It's very black and white. This is the way, they're constantly looking. We named them methods because they're constantly looking for methodology, step by step ways of doing things, that if I do this and I do this and I do this, I'm going to get this result, and that's the result I'm going to get every time when I do those steps in that order. They like rules. They like structure. These are the people that always play by the rules. It's like you don't make an exception. The rules are there for a reason, and it's something you need to learn so that you'll play by those rules. their approach to conflict is to analyze and to explain, because obviously the reason we're having conflict is that you don't understand all the facts. And if you understood all the facts, then there would be no conflict here, and we would have good communication. So that it's, one of the jokes that we make is when you get into an argument with a methods person, methods perceptual style, you'll say this, and this, and they repeat 5 facts. And you say this, and they repeat the same 5 facts. And you say another thing, and they repeat the same 5 facts. It's like they're saying to you, what are you not getting about the facts? The facts are in charge here. The facts are indisputable. Facts are facts. Facts aren't friendly, just facts are. And that we want to approach the world in that manner. Very calm.
Yeah. Oh, they're calm?
Very calm. Yeah.
Yeah.
They get excited, but it takes a lot.
Yeah. So somebody that's like that would not be very flexible, right?
They can be. I guess the point is that they will not jump to a conclusion. They will gather the facts. So once they've gathered the facts and they've made a decision, they're pretty unflexible about the decision, because for them, like in contrast to goals is going to make a decision based on what they know right now, move forward. They'll revisit the decision if you say, wait a minute, the critical part wasn't known at that point, and now it could make a huge difference. But otherwise, they'll say, why go back? We're moving forward. What do we do now?
Okay.
Where methods, they've spent the time researching and sorting through the facts, so their decision is more personal because they've got time and stuff invested in it, right? And so once they've decided, they're pretty sure that is the right answer. And there's always only one right answer. There's only one priority one, where activity has 7 priority ones, so or more, so that's, you can see where some conflicts happen there.
Who do methods get along? Which style do they get along best with? Because I can't imagine they'd get along best with their own style.
Well, we all get along well with our own to a certain extent, but you're guaranteed to have a disconnect with someone with the same style just because your life experience is different. So you think you're on the same page, and it's sort of magical because you get where the other person's coming from without explanation, and then suddenly they turn left when you were going to turn right, and you're like, whoa, what happened there? But methods, they're direct opposites of activity, and I know a bunch of great partnerships that are methods activity people because they complement each other. So, I mean, every style can get along with every other style. There's just different challenges. There's different things that you do when you're dealing with a neighbor than an opposite or one-off, but they get along with everybody.
Right.
We all do, right?
Yes. And vision is?
Vision, they see the world as opportunity and possibility. So they're future oriented. They have a general vague idea of where they're going. So that's the vision, so they have an idea in their head of what needs to happen, and then they move towards that. Very optimistic. They use their intuition a lot. It's not unusual to hear a vision person say something, I just have a gut feel about this, as a yes or a no. The other styles see them as risk takers, really big risk takers. Vision people don't see the risk. They'll do something because for them, failure is not, it's a life lesson. It's a lesson. Moving on. You won't know unless you try, and it didn't work. Okay, moving on. Next thing. Very decisive, like goals, but vision is very flexible in their decision. It's like, we need a decision. Here's mine. Oh, we can change it tomorrow. So it to other styles, it looks like they're changing on a dime. For them, it's like they're responding to whatever the possibility or opportunity is to next do. Very innovative thinkers. They're the ones who, one of the sayings that could be attributed to them was think out of the box. Let's throw things up against the wall and see what sticks. So they are naturally persuasive. You will find vision folks very, very good at doing that. When they get overly persuasive, they can feel a little preachy, but they're sort of natural. They believe in influence and impact and inspiring other people. So that makes them very happy if they can do any of those things.
That's me.
I
Vision,
love
that's
it.
me. But I have some flow.
Sure.
Are they next to each
Sure.
other? Are they close? Do they have
No,
any?
they're one-offs, but that's why you'll be solidly a perceptual style. So vision, that's you. And then you say, but I have some interest in community and I have, some awareness of working with people and I like doing those things. And what we would tell you is that is the layer that how you prefer to interact with other people. So it brings out those more community oriented, helping other people, resourcing other people oriented skills that are part of your perceptual style.
Okay.
So that's why it's so important, whenever you use one of these tools for self-help or self-growth, it's really important. You're going to get something from any tool. And the point is that it's not, you're not just a label, you are a style and your life experience. And that's what makes you unique. And so that's what's so important in our theory is that it's not only your innate style that is yours forever, but it's also how you've lived it so far that flavors everything about you. And it's understanding these are my natural tendencies, these are my natural strengths, and here's how my life experience has solidified or made me question that. And that's the importance of how you express your perceptual style.
So, so can we look back at our childhoods and see our perceptual styles, or does that really solidify it when we become adults? Because we don't have so much, um, everything's kind of the same when we're children. We're raised in a certain environment. We don't have a lot of perspective.
I agree with you and disagree at the same time.
Okay.
We still believe that your perceptual style, you're born with it.
Okay.
What happens is that you have so much flexibility and so much um, um, uh, possibility, and you're experiencing the world that you don't become aware of your perceptual style usually until around, or be able to talk about it and to be able to note the experiences that would say that's this style versus that style,
Okay.
until around about 18 or so. There's got something to do with brain development, and also just the ability to observe yourself and to reflect on your own experiences. I know that when I look back on my childhood, it was very clear that my perceptual style was operating then. I just didn't have a way to talk about it, nor would I have talked about it. I don't think anybody does.
Right.
But that's the answer that I would give you on that.
Okay, that
And
makes sense. Yeah.
and because it's innate, not inherited, it is highly likely that you have a different perceptual style than either of your parents, different perceptual style than your siblings. It's really, really common to see, a family of four have four styles or three styles or something like that. And so we're also influenced by our parents who are trying to teach us the life lessons they want us to know from the perspective of how they live their life. So what happens to us is that some of our natural skills can be devalued because it's not how our parents would do it. It is how we would do it. Or they can be, encouraged and valued. And it's that constant push and pull. So a lot of times when Gary was saying, we've worked with high school juniors and seniors and found that to be successful using perceptual style and helping them. Perceptual style doesn't dictate what you're going to be good at, career wise, or what you're interested in. I mean, you're going to be interested in something. So any style can be a lawyer, any style can be a mechanic, it's what interests you. It's how you're going to go about doing it. And usually what your specialization will work towards will be style influenced, right? So what we did with it's whatever they wanted, wherever they were choosing for their career, cool. Wherever they were choosing to go to school or not, cool. What we did was take that information and blend it with the information about their perceptual style to give them tips and techniques on how to make the most out of the environment that they were going into. And that proved to be very successful. But the point is, I got off track for a second, is that you need to be old enough to understand your own ego and not be parenting what your parents tell you you are.
Okay.
Right. And so that happens different, different kids, different, somewhere between that 15 to 18 time frame. And as if you've raised teenagers, you've watched it happen as they come into their own, right? There's
They're
a
all
reason.
different, and everyone's different, but
Yeah.
it's
And
a challenge.
you get that push pull when they're teenagers because they're trying to identify as themselves and yet they don't want to be out on their own, so you get that constant tug of war for those few years.
Yeah. So that's a challenging time.
It is.
Yeah. And so Gary, I as you were explaining, agreeing and disagreeing with what I said, I realized that I've always had this perception style. Because I remember I wrote my memoir and I remember stating in this book, I didn't want to see through the same narrow lens my mother saw through.
That's wonderful.
So I must have recognized that I had this expansive perceptual style, and it just wasn't jiving with this limited, structure.
Yes.
So
exactly.
Yeah. And that's one of the what you're describing there is a functional discovery of those differences. But we also say that at times there are times when parents are so determined that you have to see the world their way that they will suppress the natural perceptual style, and then it moves from a functional disagreement into a dysfunctional one.
Right. I've actually seen that in some of the children of the abuse survivors and victims that I've worked with.
That would make sense.
Yeah. And the children are very confused, and when I release them from the rules of what they've been told has to be a certain way, it releases them from a lot of their anxiety and depression because they think they have to do it the way their parent does it. But yeah, I mean, it's so there's so much complication to that.
Well, fundamentally, what you're describing, now I'm putting my psychologist hat on. What you're describing is you're getting someone who's being constantly told it's not okay to be you,
Right.
and that's devastating to anybody.
Yeah. Yeah. Or they're parented through fear because the parent has so much fear about how they're living their lives that they're afraid that their children are going to experience the same thing. So they box them in.
Right.
Right. And then the children, if their perceptual style is not to be boxed in, that can really cause problems for them.
Yes, and it's hard when it's that fine line where protecting becomes prescriptive and restrictive as opposed to guiding and preparation. And it's a hard line, and if you're experiencing trauma yourself, it's difficult to not have that. You have to consciously not pass that same trauma along. And so that's a lot of hard work.
Yeah, it is. So is there anything else that you would like to share about this topic? I know I've sort of guided this, but are there anything else that you think is important for us to know?
I think what I would say is I hope people will go and check out Perceptual Style and take the free assessment because it'll give them some information and, start to do that. But mostly it was whatever you find speaks to you, whatever helps you continue on your journey of being more aware of yourself, standing comfortably in who you are, and growing a little bit every day, then I say go do that and don't wait and make it a priority in your life.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. I've had people that when they're released from what they had to do, in a lot of situations when you've been raised in a family with a narcissistic parent, children believe they have to be a certain thing, do a certain thing, because they're constantly trying to get the approval. And
Yes.
then as they're doing these things, they are miserable and it's not working out. And they're getting fired, or they're not getting along with people or their bosses or whatever. And they think there's something wrong with them. And
Yeah.
so I've had a few very remarkable experiences with my clients where when they let go of all that and they just embrace something so different, they just emerged. It was incredible in ways they never thought they would.
Yes.
So this can be very, very powerful.
Yeah.
Yes.
To amplify what you just said, Randy, the difference between the former and the latter. The former is that you've got somebody who is undoubtedly being told this set of acquired skills is what you must do, and acquired skills only work in certain situations, and they have to be relearned. New ones have to be learned for new situations. Whereas when you discover your natural skills, which is what I would say that bursting forth is that they take on a life of their own. They come through you. They grow. They modify. They become more complex. They become richer, and opportunities to express them in the world become more available. So what I would add to people is don't feel that you're trapped by the things that you don't like them. Find a way. We have one for you. Find a way to discover what you're naturally gifted at and learn how to develop and grow that, and your life will transform.
Exactly. Start from strength. It sounds so
Start
simple,
from strength.
but don't start from what you think is a weakness. Certainly, if they're bothering you, write them down, hold them to the side, then focus on what you do well. Then go back and look at the things you think you were missing, and your perspective will be significantly different. And, yes, can we all improve? Yes. Will we all have acquired skills? You bet your red rider. You can't live through life without having to acquire skills that are foreign to your natural repertoire. But putting them in perspective and knowing not to spend all your time and energy doing that all day long, right? When you have all these other things that you're so good at. So that's what we hope for.
Right.
Life is too short not to enjoy it.
You're so right. You're so right. I just, I hope that everybody listening will pick up a copy of this, Unlock the Power of Your Perception, so that you can discover who you innately are and go from that strength, like Linda Ross said. So do you both work directly with clients or patients?
Mm-hmm. We do.
Okay.
We do. We work with individuals, entrepreneurs. We have sort of a wide set. Some families, a lot of coaches, so that they can incorporate the assessment in their coaching practice. So, it's available. Kind of, there's a lot of practical applications, just depending on what you want to do. Career development, that kind of stuff. So
I agree. I definitely will be incorporating this into my work because I can see where it would be applicable to many different situations. So so thank you for that. And if somebody wanted to work with you, do you do virtual, or are you just working in your area, or how's that?
we do both. We do both.
Yeah.
So virtual is, we do in person in our local area. We do some travel, but a lot of Zoom. And as with everyone, pandemic changed, and it's so easy now. It's like there's no travel time, and everybody likes Zoom, right? So we do both.
And do you have a website that you share?
Yes. So it's yourtalentadvantage.com. So www.yourtalentadvantage.com.
Okay. And your book is available, I would imagine, through your website and pretty much
It's on Amazon.
On Amazon. Yeah.
Amazon, so you can get ebook, paperback, whatever.
Okay.
There's several other sellers, but I always just say Amazon.
Yeah, that's what
Once it's on Amazon, it's kind of everywhere.
Right. I've written books, and that's just basically, I said, get it on Amazon.
Yeah, exactly. And then it goes from there.
I mean, we're at a point now, we get packages from Amazon every day for something,
Yes.
Yeah.
It's crazy, but it's so convenient. So I thank you. I'm so grateful to have met both of you and to be introduced to this concept and to your book. I really like it. And I love things that I can
Glad.
then apply to myself and to the people that
Yeah.
I'm helping. So,
Well, thanks for having us, and thank you for the work that you do, because what you work with is extremely important for helping people to actually find and enjoy their lives. So we're glad to have been part of that.
Indeed, we are.
oh, thank you for saying that. Well, have
You're
a
welcome.
wonderful day. It's been
You're
Thank
my
welcome.
you.
pleasure.
Bye.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.